All right, cool. We got this rolling. What's up, everybody? It's another day of How Can I Help? We got our boy Nathaniel coming in. So I'm going to let Nathaniel into the room and we're going to see what we can do to help out today. All right, cool. We got this rolling. Yo, what's going on, Nathaniel? Yo, Nathaniel, can you hear me? Am I muted?
Dude, I had I had to click OK first,
Oh, no
but
worries.
but I wasn't doing it. How you
What's
doing,
going
man?
on, brother?
Not a whole lot. I mean, a lot actually. I shouldn't even say that.
Dude, I'm digging the headset.
Thank you, dude. This is what I make all my calls from.
Yeah, I love it. The audio's crisp, man.
Oh, good. Okay. Sometimes when I'm when I'm recording myself, I record some of my calls, the audio does not come out crisp. It comes out like kind of, but I use crisp because Caleb turned me on to that, so I do use crisp. I
Oh,
forget. I
get
get
out
my
of here.
pen.
There's actually something called crisp.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so cool.
yeah, and it works. He's like he talks about it, or he talked about it on one of his TC Zooms a while back, and it's legit. It does work.
Dang, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Man, I'm happy
man,
that
I
we're just
appreciate you taking the time here. I know
yeah, for sure.
it's part of your giving back to the community, and I know you do a lot of that.
Yeah, I try to I try and make time to put it on the schedule and like it's just it's we have good leaders, we got Pace, we got guys like Keston, we got guys like Ty, Vincent Lanza. So, I want to
Yeah,
make sure I'm staying on top of making sure that I pour back into a community that poured back into me.
yeah. I mean, I feel the same way. I'm chapters behind you, but there's people that are chapters behind me too. So I'm in the Facebook group doing what I can.
I love it, man. So
Yeah.
what's been going on?
I mean, I'm doing a lot. I'm doing a lot of like lead managing at the moment,
Mhm.
which is something that like I'm trying to scale myself out of. I don't know how to really do it at the moment just because like we're not doing a lot of deals. So like and it's maybe a mindset thing where it's like just give somebody 25%, of the deal, and maybe do some more deals that way. I was literally just going through my CRM right now. I've got like 45 open tasks, like past due tasks that like there's a deal in there. And it's just because I've got 5 open contracts right now, like trying to get those dispoed. I've got like 3 that are in the offer phase, that they need to be given offers to. And
Mhm.
so every like 30-minute conversation, it's like, well, there just went 3 follow-ups or like 4.
Yeah.
I mean, you're aware. Yeah.
So what's your current business system look like? Like if you gave me a bird's eye view of your business, what's it look like?
I have one VA cold calling, cold texting. We're
Okay.
getting roughly 3 leads a day through that.
Okay.
For the most part cold, right? But like, um, yeah, my wife has taken over a lot of the KPI stuff. But if I had to guess, and I am guessing a little bit, like every 30 leads ish is a contract.
Okay. So you got like a 30 leads to that's a pretty good if you're talking like 30 cold leads to a contract, that's a pretty solid KPI, man.
Yeah, something somewhere along those lines. And I would say probably two contracts per close, maybe two and a
Okay.
half.
Yep.
Yeah.
So right now your VA cold calls, they generate leads, about 3 leads per day. Then you are on the back end of lead gen dispo. So you're closing it, your lead gen, like you're not lead gen, but you're follow up, closing, and
Hmm.
dispo.
Yep. I would say like the dispo side, like if I don't immediately have, because I have a okay size buyers list in my area, but we are marketing to a couple other areas that we're pretty new to. Like, so if I don't have an immediate buyer, I'm going part like JV with somebody for dispo.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm just like, I don't have time to I would love to have the more time to allocate towards it, but it's not like I'm doing acquisitions right now.
Got it. And then who trains the VA?
The VA's trained through Prime.
Okay, so you go through a service, so the VA
Yeah.
is trained. And have you ever brought on somebody to help with the lead management, the like essentially like follow-ups?
Not like legitimately. I have a couple people that are like newer sub two students that I've just have like, hey, these are old leads. You're welcome to call them, just for practice, like kind of giving back sort of thing. But nobody like, no, not legitimately. And that's like one of the things I have a few things written down as things we could talk about. Like you guys did a video 2 weeks ago or something like that on SOPs, and that's something that I'm not even following SOPs myself. Like I have funnels in my CRM for when a new lead comes in, but like after an initial contact from myself, it's like I'm just going by feel. Like this guy needs to be talked to 2 days from now or a week, a month, right?
So what you can still do is you can still SOP that. So I want to like because your personality type, you're more of a visionary. Your personality type is way more in tune. You have a higher EQ, so you're more like emotionally in tuned with people, with energy. Like you can feel the vibe of a room, which sometimes feels hard to quantify. However,
Hmm.
everything is quantifiable. Like, and it took me a long time to accept that fact that everything is quantifiable. Like nothing is so uniquely special like that we can't quantify it and repeat it and reproduce it. So you do still want to start to capture what it is you're doing. The thing is, it comes so naturally to you that you don't feel like there's a process to it. But if
Hmm.
someone were observing you, they would say, yeah, no, Nathaniel, you actually do this every single time without realizing it. You do this over and over and over again. But it flows off of you so subconsciously that you're doing it unconsciously. So it's you have a competence, an unconscious competence.
Hmm.
So what we want to do is we do actually want to start to identify that. A good way of doing that easily is record yourself doing a call and then go back and then watch yourself doing that call and essentially almost like voice over what you did in that call, right? And explain, hey, I called this person, explain the rationale, explain the thought process behind it, because then you're going to start to be able to make a decision-making matrix out of the process of, hey, I followed up with this person because they were going through this, this, and this. A human will be smart enough to be able to interpret that kind of information and start to fall within a guidelines of if this, then that.
Hmm. Okay.
So it's like we want to let them know, like, even if you're like, hey, the follow-ups, you can't tell them specifically, hey, set this follow-up for 2 days or for 14 days, but you can tell them, hey, before you get off the phone, you always schedule a follow-up and you always triple confirm the follow-up. Meaning when you say to the seller, hey, when should we get back on a call? Tuesday. Okay, Tuesday. So Tuesday, what time are you thinking? 2 p.m. or 5 p.m.? They say 5 p.m. Okay, so Tuesday at 5 p.m. I can put you down on the calendar for Tuesday at 5 p.m. Right. So we're repeating Tuesday at 5 p.m. several times. And then we're asking the seller, hey, Mr. Seller, is there any reason that Tuesday at 5 p.m. wouldn't work for you? No, Tuesday at 5 p.m. will work. Okay, great. So I've got you locked in for Tuesday at 5 p.m. But can you do me a favor? I do keep a pretty tight schedule. If something does come up at Tuesday 5 p.m., I get it, life happens. You got to go to a doctor's appointment, you got a ball game, you're in traffic. Can you do me a favor and text me or call me just to cancel so that I can put someone else on the schedule and I can help another person who may need my assistance? I just want to make sure that I'm using my time efficiently. I'm giving everybody their respect.
I gotta
Right.
do
So
better at that.
that's a process, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying when I'm going to set the time, but once I do confirm a time with them, I'm locking it in
Yeah.
because it's a part of why they pick the phone back up the next time I call them. So it's like you might already be doing that. It just may have never came up in conversation because you never had to explain yourself to somebody else.
Yeah. I don't do it to the depth that you just did it. That's for darn sure.
Right. Well, and the only
Yeah,
reason
but
I'm
yeah.
going to do that is because what's going to be really interesting is when you start trying to explain it to other people, you're going to start noticing things that you're doing that you never even knew you were doing, but they work really well.
Hmm.
So that's what starts to become cool. And then when you start to notice those things, it's like a runner noticing his form. He starts to see how he can adjust it to make it even better. So I would say start to essentially create a roadmap for the lead management that you're doing right now. Because let me ask you a question. What do you feel you're more comfortable doing, lead management or closing?
I'm probably more comfortable lead managing, but that's not what I think that my best skill is. Like my highest and best use is, I should say.
Mhm.
Right. I'm more comfortable doing the lead managing because that's like probably 90% of what I really do
Yep.
in a given day. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm a closer. I got to be closing.
Yep. So beautiful. So because I'm happy to hear that's your answer, because that means you're the perfect person to train and teach another person how to do lead
Mm,
management via video. And then you yourself can now take that time that you were working on lead management. Like you could still do lead management, but now you've got someone else who's tackling all the other things that are falling over. And your lead management is now when we get like a pile of steaming hot leads, you're the person on top of steaming hot leads.
yeah.
People are on hot, warm, and cold. So, or really, it could be one other person. But you need to at this place, you're producing solid leads, and now it's just a matter of having enough people touching it.
Yeah.
And so, I recommend to like bringing someone onto your team, like as you start to really produce this, like essentially like a training module for them, right? Like identify your sales process and create that in a module form. And it doesn't need to be perfect. I mean, if your first video is literally you talking for 5 hours, awesome, make it. Because what's going to happen is after you make that first one, you're going to realize, like, okay, I definitely know how to cut this down to 2 hours. I know how to cut this down to 1 hour. I know how to cut this down to 30 minutes. I know how to cut. It'll always get better, but just getting started is how you get there.
Yeah. Mm,
Then you're going to want to bring somebody onto your team. I typically recommend people grab folks outside of sub two. If you're looking for someone to be a little bit more of a permanent addition.
mm,
And typically what I'll say is grab someone who maybe can't afford a mentorship, right? Because now essentially you become like their mentor. Like go to
yeah.
your local RIA, find that new young hungry kid. That's who I was like when I was like getting started. Like I was like that young hungry kid where I went in, like I worked inside this dude's office and I was just like clearing emails for him just because like I just wanted to be around it. And like inside sub two, what happens is these people have already raised their hand saying, yo, Nathaniel, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to run my
Yeah.
own, I'm gonna do my own thing. So although
Right.
they say they'll come work for you, the truth is they are in the back of their minds working for themselves and they are ready to jump ship instantly the second it seems like they've got an opportunity for themselves. So they make for great JV partners. However, employees, they don't always make for great like employees. And when you bring that person on, have a upfront conversation about, hey, we need at least 6 month commitment or 9 month or 12 month, and during this time, I'm going to ask that you do not be focused on anything else. Focus on this business, learn this skill,
Yeah. Mm,
and like if you're able to teach them that skill, that's why they're there. So it's not just, they'll still be commission based, but they're also getting paid in experience, which is insanely valuable. You know this.
yeah. I feel like I was in that. I kind of joined a team, but it was right when my leads were starting to take off. And like it was just like they weren't very organized, we'll say.
Mhm.
And so it was really easy for me to cut ties with them because they like, yeah, I was just like, no, my thing's happening. I'm doing my thing.
Yep. And
Yeah.
that will happen. Like if you get like a good person, they're gonna want to do their own things. So it's like if you find that person that you can mold and like you can now your job is to provide enough opportunity to keep them busy.
Yeah. I have
People
it.
just lose.
Like, I got plenty of it right now. Yeah.
So then you're in a perfect spot. And I'm all about like, and this is from trial and error. When you bring people on, as you're learning to grow and as you're learning to scale and as you're learning to manage people, it's better to have too much work for too little people than to have too many people for too little work.
Hmm.
So I'd rather you say like look at like all the leads you have and be like, oh, I really could use two people. I would say bring one person in. Let that one person essentially, unless you're like you're crazy overflooded. I don't know how many leads you got sitting there, but like bring enough that that person is going to be like worked at like max capacity because that's what's going to get them to also grow
Yeah.
and flooded with opportunity because it's going to be a
Yeah.
number.
Would you like, is it a good idea to bring somebody in at like a, 3, 4 hours a day, or do you say, no, you gotta be,
Personally, I prefer full time.
yeah,
Personally, if they only have like a part time, I want it to be a consistent, like you're showing up here every day part time, and maybe the thing that you're doing that's your other schedule is like a W-2 job. Like you're not working on your own thing. If
right.
you're working on your own thing personally, I don't want a person that's working on their own thing. At least not for a position like this, because
Yeah.
I'm aware that when people are working on their own thing like that, they what happens is it becomes conflict. They're thinking about following up with your leads and their leads at the same time. So they're not putting their all into it. And it's during the same, it's a conflict of interest because it's the same time of calling. Like it's not like, hey, they only call their leads at 4 o'clock in the morning and they call your leads at 4 o'clock at night. It's the same timing. So
Yeah.
that's what the issue is.
Yeah. I want like I guess my thought in my head was somebody that's going and like has a, whatever, UPS driver, maybe not that, those people work crazy hours, but you get the point.
Yep. Yeah.
And then they're, something almost completely unrelated to real estate. And then they're like, but I want to learn real estate and I want to become good at this so I can eventually,
That's the perfect person, like really, like someone
yeah,
that like they have a job that's keeping them stable. They kind of hate their job, so they're not fully dependent on you to survive day to day. So they have enough of a runway to let the process work. And then at the same time, there's no conflict of interest in what they're doing outside of you.
yeah,
That's and like people don't take the time to identify the avatar of what they're looking for, so they kind of grab the lowest hanging fruit, which there's
okay,
nothing wrong with that. It's just you spend a lot of time training these people for them to walk away in like 30 days.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
That's the last thing I want, like retrain and retrain.
And that's
Yeah,
where the videos are going to come into place. Like your videos should be your primary way of training them because
okay,
be like, hey, go watch these videos, come back to me next week, and let's have a conversation. Let's see what you've learned. And from there, if they've done that bit of homework, then you can start working with them. Say, hey,
yeah.
watch
That's
these
almost a weeding
videos,
them out too.
call this list. Yep.
Yeah,
You're now
yeah,
testing them on, hey, this is what you're actually going to have to do. So like your job interview is do the job. Like
yeah,
call these people and really call these people and watch these videos and then come back. And if you do that, then it warrants a deeper conversation. It warrants more of my focus. And what's nice about that is you could possibly do like 3 or 4 people at one time, letting them know you're only going to pick one of them.
a little bit.
Do you
Sorry,
have
I'm
a
writing.
local leader that you go to?
No, I have one, but like I don't know if you could tell. There's a 2-year-old over here. There's a 5-month-old right here. We get up at 5 in the morning, and the RIA starts at like 7:30 at night, and it's 35 minutes away.
Yep.
And so it's just like yeah, I could do it. I could make the sacrifice for it, but yeah, I think that I would have no problem finding somebody in the like create, the larger Facebook group that would suit the needs.
Yep. That's a good place to find some of them
Yeah,
inside there because they don't have like the finances to like get into sub two and like
right.
because there is like a certain like there has to be like a strong enough like need for them. Also don't be afraid to look at people that come from other sales backgrounds, like solar panel people, so unrelated industries but same skill
That's
set.
funny. I just talked to a guy about like he's in the solar. He's trying to buy one of our wraps. He's like, It's funny you said solar panels because that's what he's like. He literally just I'm a solar panel salesman. Okay.
Yeah, if you find someone that like isn't afraid to like talk to strangers, like even if it's just like in the street, just quickly be like, yo, like what are you doing?
Hmm.
Like don't be afraid to ask them. Like it'll surprise you. Like some of the best salespeople are picked up off the street.
Hmm.
You know, it's like
Interesting.
obviously you gotta make sure that they're a good core value fit, right? That like you guys see eye to eye.
Yeah.
But that there's an advantage there. Because again, like finding someone like maybe one day down the road they will want to create their own thing, but ultimately you want them working on your thing for a little while. In exchange, you'll teach them, but like you need to have some form of minimum commitment, and then
Right.
you can be able to get them to their first like paycheck soon enough so that they get rewarded for the work. So that's why it's like you want to be at the place where it's like you're overloaded with opportunities. Like so, like sometimes I'll see people bring on lead managers like the same day they hire like a VA cold caller, and I'm like, dude, you don't even have a pipeline yet. Like your person's gonna come, they're gonna sit, they're gonna feel like they're not achieving, they're gonna like feel terrible, they're gonna feel like they can do it themselves, and then they're gonna leave. Like you gotta come in. What's that saying? Like idle hands is like the devil's workshop or something
Oh
like that.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you can't let their hands be idle. You gotta keep giving them like things
That's
to.
my like that's kind of what's been holding me back like right now. It's because like while I have consistent leads, I wouldn't say that I have the most consistent deals at the moment. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I have five. Well, yeah, I think we have six, three option contracts and three, purchase agreements. Like, none of the options are going to be closed, probably. But I mean, that's why I put them under an option. But yeah,
Mhm.
just like it's probably a little bit of a mindset thing. Like, I forget what the term is, but not feeling confident in myself or
And that's normal.
yeah,
Like that feeling that you have right there, because you're talking about moving into the next stage. You're talking about moving on to the next level. So
yeah,
what's happening is like your current paradigm, your current ego is trying to stay alive. It's trying to preserve itself because it at least understands this level, right? Like, and you got to remember, there's a point where you didn't even understand this level, and you were
yeah,
equally like nervous and apprehensive about moving forward, but you push through it anyway. And what happens is you start to find you adapt. You always do. So getting to that next stage of like bringing somebody in, you're going to adapt, and there's going to be little lessons that you learn that there's no way for anyone to ever teach you because they're so nuanced that no one could ever possibly remember to say, oh yeah, that's also going to happen. Because there's just so many of those little micro minute details that occur. So as you start to bring someone in, you're going to start to see, oh shoot, I need to have this. I mean, the best thing that we can tell you as a preparation for it is you do want to have some SOPs in place of
yeah,
just letting them know, like, hey, essentially look at what you're doing and figure out how to put what you're doing to word, to put it to paper. Because essentially they're coming in to replace you. So everything
right,
that you're doing, they're coming in to replace that and to do that. It's like, so identify, you got to be able to identify and communicate it like you're talking to a computer. And you got to say, hey, what you're going to do is, start the day. We're going to do affirmations. If we do affirmations, we're going to open up the computer. We're going to log into the CRM before we start calling. We're going to prioritize the CRM. This should take about 10 minutes. And what we're doing is we're simply moving the leads in place of who needs to be followed up. So we're doing a quick check before we make any calls to ensure that the highest priority calls are at the top of the list and the lowest priorities are at the bottom of the list. Once that's good, we're going to make sure that the phone number is good. We're going to check that. Once that's awesome, we're going to begin making the follow-up calls, and we're going to follow this framework. Inside the calls, this is what a successful call equals. A successful call equals getting price, condition, this, and this. If it gets to this point, we move it to the next stage. If it doesn't get to this point, we schedule a follow-up. Right. So it's like now it's like a decision map. And so now
yeah,
follow-up, what's nice is the follow-up we usually just kind of keep looping around until it eventually loops out this way. But like when we just start the process of creating it, in the beginning it seems daunting because it seems like we're doing a lot, but just taking it one step at a time and putting whatever comes to your mind, because each time you come back and look at it, you'll remember something different. And you're like, oh, and it's not a big deal to just add in one more step. And it
Yeah.
helps just like talk it out loud to someone. Like if you and your wife are sitting, let her ask you, like, so what is it that you do? And then just don't ever give the answer, I don't know, because that's going to turn your brain off of thinking. Just even if it's like you stutter and you take 30 minutes to come up with an answer, just let your brain spit out the answer of what you do. Because you do know, you just have never been asked to really give it in like a bullet point format.
Yeah. It's in there. It just needs to be out. Yeah.
Yep, just got to get pulled out, and
Yeah.
someone else will make it neat for you. Like your
That's
personality.
your job.
Yeah, like you're not gonna make it. You're literally just gonna like almost like word vomit, which is why like I recommend like recording it so that whoever sees it can go back and like her skill set.
Okay.
She's able to look at that stuff and decipher in there, kind of like talking to Chat GPT. Like you talk to it and it makes sense out of like your randomness of questions, and it'll give you back like this whole thing.
Yeah.
You just need to define what it is you want, which the definition of what you want is essentially a framework for a lead manager to be able to follow inside of your organization, giving them a framework to work within.
Yeah.
Like, hey, follow the framework, trust the framework, don't deviate from the framework.
I feel like some of the SOPs is just like are the funnels that I have inside my system. Like I just have to take the funnel that I've already created and put it onto paper, right? Because then like inside my system, you just like if it's a new lead and you didn't get in contact with them, you just click like a button and it follows whatever the funnel is going to be, and then it'll pop up as a phone call or it'll send them an auto text, like those kinds of things.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
literally what your SOP is. And it's just explaining that to them too. So not only are they doing it, they also understand why they're doing it. So when they understand why they're doing it as well, it makes it more likely for them to continuously do it over and over and over, and for them to do it with even more care because they understand what the next step, they understand what happens after them. Sometimes when people don't understand what happens after them, they don't, it's like contractors. Contractors don't realize, hey, the next guy that comes in has to do X, Y, and Z. They end up doing a crappy job. So now this guy has to undo that guy's work. But if he understood, oh, when this guy comes in, he's going to need to get behind this. So instead of me putting this up against the wall, I'm going to move it 4 inches out just to make life easier for the next person. So they're doing it. This team gets houses built much faster than the other team where people are having to undo each other's work. So it's literally that. It's just, the nice thing is you've already gone through the process from start to finish. You've already done it a handful of times. So now it's just looking and seeing, hey, what are the recurring themes that keep happening over and over and over? What are the things that we keep doing each time? And just capture it. Because you already do it. It's now just, it's got to get out of your head and on paper or on video so somebody else can understand what you're doing.
I like the video idea for sure. It's just me. I can just sit there and blah, blah, blah. I can even pull up like leads in the CRM and talk through them like that.
Yep.
Oh, I froze. Oh, you froze. Yeah.
But that's it. Like do that exactly. And then your wife can probably sit down and like, it's not going to be built in a day, but she can sit down and just start making little like step-by-step procedures. Like, okay, well, based off of what you did and what you said, this is what I saw. And now someone else could come in and you test it, like give it to someone else. Like when you have a new person, give it to them and see if they're able to repeat what you've done. Right. And if they're able to repeat what you've done, you now know you have a good SOP.
Yeah. It's like I guess I'm struggling a little too because I have so much stuff. Oh, I'm gonna take away from that stuff to get this stuff done. But like a month or 2 months from now, I'll be better off because of it. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, this is probably like the biggest like entrepreneurial conundrum, because you're all right. Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant. All right, so we've got the left side and the right side. Right now, what's happening is you've gained some traction, but you're hanging out on the left side, which we all do, by the way. Like, so, this is very, very common. Like I catch myself doing this all the time. we start hanging out on the left side where we are trying to, yeah, I'm just gonna actually, I wonder if I can open the board right now. Sweet. I don't know if this lets me. Oh, they got a new
Oh,
whiteboard. Dang, this is fancy. All right, cool. So, oh, I can't draw on it. There we go.
yeah, I can't. That might be my end.
Nope.
Hi, hola, ciao.
Can you see my
Oh
whiteboard
no, yeah,
here?
I can see it now. Yep.
Cool. So that whole Kiyosaki E and S, right? So
Can
on
you
this
hear
side,
the little one screaming right now?
not at all, man.
No.
The
Okay.
headphones are good,
Okay,
bro.
sweet.
So with the E and S and the B and I, you've got on this side the employee and the self-employed mindset, which is very much like I'm an owner operator. I got to work. I got to hustle. I got to make it happen. You know, I got to make the calls. I got to do the follow-up. I got to do everything. And if I stop doing it, the challenge is the whole machine stops. Now, over here, we have systems and people and processes that we trust. Ultimately, we might have to take a temporary like slow down on this side to build this conveyor belt. That way, when I turn this on, it will catch up the backup that occurs, right? Because this will make no qualms about it. Like this will potentially get backed up unless you're willing to make the sacrifice of doing this at nights and weekends. But here's the fun thing. It doesn't take as much time as we think, because if we do it little by little, it's each day, just like picking a little piece at a time and recording it, getting it out there, and then passing it on to your wife to say, hey, can you do a little bit of this? And it's like over the course of, 3 weeks, a month and a half, 2 months, that, you arrive and you have this system. I know we want it built yesterday, but the truth is when you build it, you're going to be figuring out kinks in it.
Yeah.
There's always the system has to fit you. But the nice thing is it's a proven model that we already know. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. I just gotta like swallow the pill and go. Stuff's gonna get left behind for a little bit.
That's
Or eat. Yeah.
that's all it is. It's just as you're doing the calls, it's gonna be simple. Like let's say like you made a call today, record yourself making that call. And then instead of immediately like jumping over into the next thing, like while you're logging it into CRM, like keep the Zoom call rolling and just be like, okay, and explain yourself while you're doing it. So it'll slow you down, but it won't stop you. Because
Yeah.
now you're talking out loud. Okay, I'm logging the notes in. The reason I'm logging the notes is because the next time I call this person, I will not remember this conversation. So it's important that I log the notes now. I don't leave the phone call without logging the notes, because if I think I'll come back in 30 minutes to remember, I'll have forgotten 70% of it. So it's imperative that when you finish a call, you immediately log notes. Notes should be detailed. Notes should be cleared. Notes should be long enough that somebody else, you have to write your notes, not for yourself. You need to write your notes for somebody else. You need to write your notes so that if you're home sick and I need to follow up with your lead, I should be able to read your notes and have an understanding of what's happening and where you left the conversation off. A good tip is at the end of every phone call, recall and recap your conversation. So at the end of all my conversations, I quickly recap. The reason I do that is because my calls are recorded. So at the last 2 minutes, I can skip and just go listen to the last 2 minutes, because inside there are all the details of the phone call. Right? It also helps the seller remember me, but it's more so for me to remember the conversation.
Yeah.
So it's like little things like that is essentially what you start to do. And like you're already doing this. It's now just recording and documenting yourself. That's what it is. You're just documenting what you're already doing. Because
Yeah.
you're gonna, like this time next year, you'll be even better at what you do. So you're gonna create something new a year from now anyway. So don't worry about making it perfect. Just get it done.
Yeah. Constantly just be revamping and yeah, iterating.
Yep. Until you get
Yeah.
something like super fine-tuned, in which
Yeah.
case then it'll tend to sit a little while longer. But in the beginning, I mean, like if you ever saw the movie Founders where it talks about McDonald's, you saw like how they were like revamping their system over and over and over and over until they could figure out how to make the fries the same way each time. But it wasn't like a one time figure it out. It was like practice and practice and practice. And like, all right, like we do it like this. Okay, we pull it out at 30 seconds. Okay, we do this. You know, it's like it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, until we get somebody else's hands in there too, it's gonna need tweaking.
Yep.
Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, man. I appreciate you. I think you and I are gonna end up on another call here shortly anyway, because I do have a Q2 goal. You can't see it probably, but we're looking to hire a coach quarter two. So
Oh, let's go. Well, I think I
yeah.
thought I saw you scheduled a coaching call with the high performance coaching, I think for like Wednesday or Thursday.
Oh no, I don't think so.
So maybe
Unless unless I did it. I commented on one of your videos the other day,
oh,
and
that's
then
on YouTube.
yeah, and you sent me the link, and then I was talking to my wife about it, Brittany, and she was like, "Well, you're talking to him in like 2 days anyway." So yeah, it's just like kind of, I'm attracting what I want,
I love it. Yeah,
Yeah,
if you're interested, we could have a conversation about that. I would say schedule on that link because I have you fill out like a little bit of an application as well that
right.
like helps me understand where you're at. So that'll be cool. But also right now, as of right now, do you have any other questions or like anything else? Any other concerns?
Not that's gonna be quick.
That's cool. I put on it like 30 minutes, but like most of these calls have been going like closer to an hour because like
Okay.
usually like people usually have some questions, except yesterday's call. Yesterday's call was literally like 5 minutes. She had like one question and she's like, oh,
Yeah.
and she like ran out. I was like, dang, that was dope.
She was in like a supply closet or something at work. Was
Yeah,
that
she was like at
yesterday?
work and I was just like,
Yeah.
she was like, yeah, I just had this new question. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, cool.
I've been trying to watch them because like there's always value you have in them, but it's hard, like like because they're longer, and I'm like I can't sit there for 30 minutes and like you know I'm working so much during the day. When I get done, I'm like I gotta hang out with little kiddos.
Yep.
They're only 2 years and 5 months old once. I mean, I think it would probably be better suited for us talking on the coach and stuff. Like I still am lacking kind of clarity of what we really want to do and what we really want to accomplish because we do like we want to have rentals and we want to have a portfolio of like cash flowing, and not even necessarily rentals but like cash flow,
Mhm.
wraps or holding notes or whatever, but like I'm just like wholesaling right now, so part of me feels a little burnt out in that. Like we're in our need why right now, you know, which is okay. And it's good for me because I haven't had a need why in a while. We've been like just kind of chilling. Um, but yeah, I feel kind of like I'm you're not going to my end goal, but also that is yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, no,
Yeah.
you're hitting the nail on the head for something right there. Because Nathaniel, what you've got to recognize is you're in a position where you see a better life and you want to thrive.
Yeah.
So recognize that thriving, it requires a clear target. And here's why. It's like running a marathon. So I recently ran a marathon, and without having a specific target, it's easy to go out and run every day and not necessarily feel accomplished. In fact, this was occurring at the
Right.
very beginning when I was just like running just for the sake of running. I wasn't really measuring anything. I wasn't sure if I was doing better or worse. So on days where I kind of felt slow and sluggish, even though I completed the run, I didn't feel good. And it was just like I didn't want to continue doing it. I didn't want to pour into it. But then when I had the clear set goal of I want to run this marathon, and then even more specifically on the second marathon, it was I want to run the marathon and I want to hit this time. What started to happen was I started to create strengths for myself. I started to create my own box to operate inside of, which then gave me feedback. Because out there, it's
Mm.
like, it's like free falling. Right? If you ever skydive before?
No, I want
Oh,
to, but I haven't. Yeah.
you would have fun with it. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
But one of the cool things is like when you're falling and skydiving, you don't it doesn't necessarily feel as quickly, like you're moving at like, I think like 120 something miles an hour, but it doesn't feel that fast because there's nothing whizzing by you. Whereas like
Yeah.
if you're on the ground and maybe you're going like 60 miles an hour on the ground, like if you're riding 60 miles an hour on the back of a bicycle, like going down a mountain, you'd feel like, holy crap, because like you're seeing the rocks on your side and the guardrail over here. So it
Yeah.
feels way faster. Although you're going twice the speed, we need to have references. We need to have something to contain us in a sense so that we can begin to push against that pressure and grow. So when we
Mm.
start looking at identifying the goals that we want to make for ourselves, what we have to do is start identifying what are the milestones, like what's the target. So even with wholesale, it's a stepping stone. You ultimately want to get to the place of owning property. What's the clear target on the, like essentially this is marathon one, right? So you might be saying like, hey, my goal is to finish it in under 4 hours, right? And then after we complete it under 4 hours, then we're going to move on to the next goal, which is to do it in under 3.5 hours. Then the next goal is going to be, so for your wholesaling portion of the race, what's the target that you want to hit that you're aware of?
Are you asking me right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. 30K net like revenue per month.
For how long? And do you want to keep your wholesale business alive forever? Or is your wholesale business being used to get you to a certain point to then take your kind of,
I think our idea is keeping it alive and running and us being less and less and less part of it um more like kind of a pace kind of thing where he's just like really the high level guy. Oh, we really need pace for this one. Like, yeah, we really need Nathaniel's opinion here. Um,
yep.
I know that's a far off goal, but like, yeah, right now, and I shouldn't have said 30 per month, 30 per quarter is what our goal is right now, 30 per quarter.
Okay.
So 10K per month, which we're really like we're right on the cusp of. It's just like one deal missed last quarter was there, and then yeah.
So what's cool then is, and that's cool that I like that you have that goal, because what's really cool is as you're building that then, and like, okay, we want to get to the place of essentially creating a wholesale business that stays on and functioning, that creates the earned income. And then as we get to the place of having it run a little bit more fluidly, we can start to focus on holding assets because we've got this muscle memory for the wholesale business. Like it
Yeah.
kind of flows pretty well. So I would start to ask myself, instead of like, what does it take to make a $10,000 per month wholesale business? I would start asking myself, hey, what if I needed to make this wholesale business produce $50,000 a month? What would it need to look like and feel like, and how would it need to operate? And start letting your mind envision that and start building that thing. Because when you start to build that thing, you're going to be able to hit your goal because you would have over engineered essentially. It's kind of like if I want to, put 100 points on the board, like I got to think about putting 120 points. Right, because it's going to force me to put the effort required into making it happen. Because to make 10,000 happen, you already kind of know how to do that, but to make 50,000 happen, maybe that's the part that it requires you to stretch. And it really requires, like, okay, I
Yeah.
definitely can't do that by myself. So I need to bring on an assistant, or we need to get better quality leads, or we need to be in a different marketplace where we're doing less deals but bigger spread, right? But whatever it is, it will force you to come up with that solution.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. I say sometimes think, and I've even told Brittany that like we're thinking too small sometimes. But like it's easy to think too small when you're like, well, we got to replace a paycheck right now.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, you're hitting your needs, but I want you to understand this, and this is going to be like a cool little paradigm shift. Focus on like your job as a business owner is to own a business. All a
right.
business is a set of systems and processes. That's all a business is. if you could like remember that, it's like it's systems and processes. It's you found a system, because when you find a system and you're like, this system works, you can now scale a system, but you can't scale, like you can't really scale effort. It's good to have,
Right.
right? But you can't scale hustle. It's good to have, but you can't scale it. At some point, it puts a limit. But a
Yeah.
system, if it works well, you can make it as large as you want, because by nature of the system working, size is irrelevant. I actually, it's funny. I was in
Right. I go
California.
like I know. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say I was in California this weekend, and I was in a hotel, and I was high up on the floor, and I was looking out, and I happened to be looking down at the plumbing running along the side of the building for the whole hotel. And what I realized, because I see it with like the houses that we renovate, I was like, this is the exact same plumbing system. It's just larger pipes. And then it occurred to me, I was like, man, like they're able to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of toilets and showers and sinks and all of that stuff flush, because all of them, it's the same system repeating over and over and over and
Mm.
over. And the smaller pipes open into the bigger pipes, into the bigger pipes, into the bigger pipes, eventually into the sewer. And this whole thing can keep flowing. And I was like, they don't have to worry about a clog, because at the top, it's a proper system that nothing this big can ever even get in. And if it does, everything it opens into something larger. So if there's ever a break, it happens at this point, which can easily be swapped out and fixed and put back in. And it's like, okay, systems. If you
Yeah.
have a good system, it's scalable. And if it breaks, it's very easy to replace.
Mm.
So we got to start thinking in terms of systems,
Yeah.
But what's
Oh,
nice,
going back to 40 minutes ago. 30 minutes ago. Yeah.
you're on the right path, man. Like you're seriously
Yeah.
like doing the right thing. You're taking action, and people are going to want to be a part of your team because you have momentum already. You've already done the hardest part of gathering momentum to get this thing in motion.
Yeah.
Like, trust me when I
Yeah,
say
I
that.
do. We started it last year when we like right after joining, like gathering the momentum. And then this little guy came along, bless him. And we lost it, he's a baby, so we lost some of it and just like picking it back up. It was you did a video the other day on like, you're exponentially and then you reset to zero. I
Yep.
felt like that. I don't feel like I started completely back to zero just because like I had learned a bunch of things previously, but yeah, I mean it was like, dang it, like I love you, but dang it.
And it happens. But that
Yeah,
also right there teaches you why building systems is so important, because we can't
yeah.
predict when life is going to happen. Like earlier today, man, like my stomach out of nowhere just had a crazy stomach ache out of nowhere, just put me down like in a fetal position for like an hour.
Oh
And I
man.
never get stomach aches, but like it happened, and it's just like thankfully I had everything else set up that things could keep running. So it's the systems make a difference. They make a huge
Yeah,
difference.
yeah. I'm getting there. I appreciate you.
No, Nathaniel, I appreciate you, bro. This was awesome.
I agree. I knew it would be. I was nervous about it because I felt like I was going to be unprepared, but yeah, I'm glad this went well.
Yeah, of course, man. Any final questions?
No, I don't think so.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
dude, I appreciate you immensely. You're gonna be crushing it. Really focus on just building those systems. Do like what we did here, like where it's like just talk it out, like as you're going through it one day.
Hmm.
Just take one of those calls, like start with the first call and just explain yourself while you have fresh energy. Record that, and then you can pass it over to Brittany and be like, hey, can you make essentially like bullet points on what I explained and just put it in a step by step, and
Yeah.
just have her make notes that way. Or even use there's an AI called Otter that jumps into Zoom calls with you, and
Okay.
it records like 30 minutes, and it'll write out all of your stuff. So it'll
Okay. Like
every
transcribe it.
it'll
Okay.
describe the whole thing for you. And it'll even,
Interesting.
based off of what you're describing, it'll even give them like headlines like, hey, in this area you talked about this, and in this area you talked about this. It's insane.
Yeah. I mean, geez Louise.
Yep.
It's crazy where we're going. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, man. It
Well,
looks like dinner's ready over here, so.
dinner. You enjoy the rest of the night. I'll talk to you soon.